rubber stamp and it went through. But
you know, when I've described those bonds to people I know in the county, a very common reaction is, I don't remember any bond votes, any bond issues. I don't remember voting on that. How could they sell?
Right.
The two bond issues together are over $100 million.
Correct. And didn't require...
Didn't that require a vote of the people?
Exactly.
Okay, here's what happens.
And this is the truth about money. I want our listeners to pay very close attention to this.
Okay, so you've got the separate pension fund, the MCERA. And what's happened is there's a big gap that's opened up between the value of its assets and its obligations, its pension obligations valued today. And let's say it's $100 million, because that's essentially what it wound up being over that period of time. The actuary is going to require the county to begin to pay that 8% assumed return on investment into the pension fund on an annual basis, because if it doesn't, it's falling farther and farther behind.
Right.
County says, oh, that's interest. That's $8 million a year interest. We could go out onto the bond market right now and sell bonds and get 4.5% interest. But there's a problem. It's still only, quote unquote, an estimate by an actuary. There's no third-party transaction that created that debt. And so what happens is the county filed an action at the Superior Court across the street over here called a validation action.
That's right. That's what I was...
essentially, the county's kind of like suing itself and going to court and saying, we want you, judge, to say that this really is a debt. We might tell all the folks out here, if they pound on us about this unfunded liability, we might say, well, it's not really a debt, but we want you now to say that it's really a debt. And once you pass your hands over it, legal hands, and say, yeah, you guys owe this money, now all of a sudden we have what's called a debenture, which is an unsecured liability, an account payable that can be put on the county's books.
Right.
Now they can refinance that.
Right.
Okay.
Who was the judge involved in that?
I don't know. I don't know who did it. But what I know is that there's been about 20 of these in the state of California from counties. Nobody has ever challenged. They're challengeable. Any citizen can go in and file a complaint back, a counter complaint, wait a minute. They've been telling us for years that this isn't really a debt, and now they're saying it's a debt? Come on.
I was thinking how indignant, just absolutely indignant I am that the county filed this validation action. I never saw it in the Ukiah Daily Journal, the tombstone for it, the announcement for it in the Ukiah Daily Journal or in the Press Democrat. Not one citizen, not one taxpayer, not one voter files a counterclaim, basically contesting this action done by the county in the dead of the night to tell the truth about this pension obligation bond. I suspect it's going to happen again. When I interviewed Jim Anderson at in an ambush interview in our last retirement board meeting 2 weeks ago, he was very cavalier about doing another pension obligation bond. When I said, you can cut health benefits, but you can't cut retiree benefits. They're checks. They're actual retirement checks. He said, yeah, I know. He said, that's statutory. He said, we'll just do another pension obligation bond. Very casual, very cavalier. So it's obvious that the county is very confident that they can sneak this in again. And I'm madder than hell. Why aren't others madder than hell? Why?
I don't know why people, there's a lot of energy going on nationally right now with this election. Clearly, there's a lot of engagement about that. But we don't get anywhere near that kind of response to what happens really on the streets of the town you live. And I don't get it either. I mean, to me, the thing that gets me angry about it is, there's been a lot of millions of people through history have paid a huge price for us to be able to have the relationship we have with our government, where they're accountable to us. And what does it mean when we don't act, when we don't take that responsibility? What does it mean about the price all those people have paid in history for us to have the benefit that we have.
Exactly.
I don't get it.
I mean, I can't get my own supervisor, Mike Delbar, to answer my questions in this matter. And yet Mike Delbar has been a supervisor for how many years now?
12 years,
12
asking
years.
for a fourth term.
All right, asking for it. So he's vested in the county's retirement plan. You think he would take a very keen interest in the impending bankruptcy of not just our pension plan, but in the county's budget and all this deferred debt, this $315 billion of deferred debt. Try to get an appointment with him. Try to get him to answer a call. Not just that, he blocks my emails. You think he would take an interest in this?
Well, not only that, but you would think that he has a responsibility to respond to a constituent about it. I would certainly think.
So is it just as a fear? Is it the fear of lawsuits? What's going through the minds of supervisors?
I think too many supervisors are more worried about their next election than doing their duty.
All right.
I'm afraid of that.
All right. I had to ask the question.
Not all, definitely not all.
All right.
But more than one.
All right.
So along with the validation, the pension obligation bonds, what's going on with the actual retiree health care system? Is that part of the same thing?
Let me bring up one other issue that's actually a transition between the two. I said that there were two main reasons, if you work the math, that have led to the pension debt. One of the reasons was the worst performance of any independent county retirement system in the state over a 10-year period of time. But there's another reason. For the last 15, 20 years,